Welcome to Little John's Yarns. Today we're going to learn how to make these easy one panel flip over mittens. These mittens are created using simple single crochet. This is the perfect beginner friendly crochet mitten pattern. Let's hop into the pattern breakdown. These crochet mittens are created in back and forth rows of back loop single crochets in one complete flat panel. Once the flat panel is created, you will fold your mitten in half and seam up the sides and you are completely done. The materials for this tutorial is a 5mm crochet hook, and I'm using 2 skeins of Vanna Choice yarn in the color chocolate and rust. This is a number 4 worsted weight yarn. The materials for this pattern was provided by WeCrochet. All information and the free pattern will be listed down in the description box below. As usual, I'll leave timestamps for easy pattern navigation. For this mitten tutorial, I'm going to give you sizes for women and men. For a finished woman size mitten, it should be a total of 11 inches long from top to bottom. For a man's from top to bottom, it will be a total of 12 inches long. So let's hop into this. For women, we're going to begin with a chain of 70. For men's sizes, we're going to begin with a chain of 78. Once you have your chain, we're going to begin by single crocheting into the second bump from the loop. Usually it's the second chain, 1, 2, but I like to work into the back loops. So let's count the bumps. 1, 2, single crochet. Now we're going to place 1 single crochet into each one of your back loops all the way down your work. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the other side. We made it to the very end of the row. If you're working a woman's size, you should have a total of 69 stitches. Male size, you should have a total of 77 stitches. For your next row, we're going to chain 1 and turn your work. We're going to be working in the back loops from here on out. So all you're going to do is place a back loop single crochet into that first back loop. All right, and continue to place back loop single crochets all the way across, and I'll meet you at the other side. Okay, we've made it to the very end of the row, and now we're just going to do a pattern repeat. So for the next several rows, we're just going to repeat this last row of single crocheting into the back loop. So for a women's, you're going to repeat this last row 8 more times. For men, you're going to repeat this last row 9 more times, but there is a color change. You're going to be color changing every 2 rows. So now I'm going to show you a quick example on how I color change on the very last row. So when you make it to the very end of your row, we're just going to complete that last stitch, but stop halfway through, leaving 2 loops on your hook. Take your yarn, new yarn, and pull through. Make sure everything is tightened up. Ooh, excuse me. Chain 1 and turn your work. And remember, we're going to leave this orange yarn or your primary color down where you're not going to fasten off your work, and we're going to continue back looping single crochet all the way across. All right, I'm going to show you how I change over to my main color again after I finish those 2 rows. So pause your video here and I'll give you a quick example on how I change row colors again. Okay, we made it to the end of this row, and I'm going to show you how to color change back to your original color. So we're going to start with our single crochet again in that back loop and stop halfway through. Drop your secondary color, pick up your main color. We're not going to pull tight, and we're just going to pull through. We don't want to pull this tight where it makes your work pinch like this, but just continue as normal. Don't worry about these little threads because they will be covered over by single crochets on that row. All right, so pause your video here, continue putting those designated amount of rows onto your pattern, and I'll meet you when you're complete. We've completed our additional rows, and for women, you should have a total of 10 rows. For men, you should have a total of 11 rows. So let's start our next section. I've already changed my color and chained 1. So for women, you are going to back loop single crochet into the next 21 stitches. For men, you are going to back loop single crochet into the next 23 stitches. So pause your video here and continue your back loop single crochets. Once you complete those back loop single crochets, you should be about 1/3 of the way down your pattern. All right, so once you get there, for a size women, you are going to chain 15. For men, right now, you're going to chain 17. There's going to be one more step. After you finish your chain, you're going to skip 27 stitches for a woman And for a man, you're going to skip 31 stitches. So pause your video here, continue putting your chains, and skip the designated amount of stitches. Now that you've completed your chain, now we're just going to single crochet into that 28th stitch. I have my 27th stitch marked off, so we're going to skip that stitch and back loop single crochet. Let me get this a little closer, into that 28th stitch. Now we're going to continue to back loop single crochet down the remainder of your work. So pause your video here and continue placing the rest of your single crochets down your mitten. We've made it to the end of the row, and this is what your work should look like. So now we're just going to go on to the very next row. Make sure I already chained one. Turn your work, and we're just going to back loop single crochet in each one of your back loop single crochets. So pause your video here, continue placing back loop single crochets until you make it to here. All right, we made it across, and now we are at the chain, and we're just going to place single crochets into each stitch all the way across. And you know me personally, I like to work into the back bumps of my loops. That's the underneath of the chain. So single crochet all the way across these pieces, and when you make it back to your previous rows, back loop single crochets, just continue placing back loop single crochets all the way across your work. So pause your video here, continue your single crochets and your back loop single crochets. We've made it to the very end of a row, and I've already changed my color, and we're just going to flip our work. So for the next 3 rows is just going to be a pattern repeat. We're going to, of course, chain 1, back loop single crochet in each stitch all the way across for a total of 3 rows. So pause your video here, and I'll meet you after completion of your 3 rows of back loop single crochets. All right, we completed those 3 additional rows. So now I'm going to show you how to assemble your work. We're going to take your mitten and fold it in half, and we're going to seam up all the sides. But I'm going to show you quickly how I seam my sides. I prefer to do slip stitches. Let me get this chain 1 over here. What I'm going to do is pull my hook out of my work, go in through the front loop of the first stitch on your front panel, and go in through the back loop of the back panel. Grab onto that loop and pull through. I consider this one my first slip stitch. Now the rest of them are basic slip stitches. So going through the front loop, back loop, where's the back loop? Slip stitch, front loop of the first panel, back loop of the second panel, and slip stitch. Loosely all the way up your work, and do that on the remaining of your sides, and then we'll work on the cuff. All right, we completed seaming up our mittens, and I want you to turn your mitten to the right side out, because this is the side that we seamed on, so this is the correct side. I want you to attach the yarn to the bottom of your work, and you're going to evenly place single crochets all the way around the cuff of your mitten. Typically, when you're working with single crochets, you just work 1 single crochet per row. So once you do that 1 row of single crochet, you're going to slip stitch the join and do a 2nd row of single crochet, and your mitten's all done. So pause your video here and give me 2 rows of single crochets around the cuff of your mitten. Once you finish your 2 rows of single crochets, you're just going to fasten off your work, and you're all done, and you have your pair of mittens. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you check out my other crochet mitten tutorials. All right, guys, I'll see you all on the very next pattern.